We were in a small town, and we knew the history, the reputation of the town before we got there. And we were told all the rules. You know, you have to go everywhere with a buddy, don't go anywhere by yourselves, do your best to stay with the team, the whole thing. And the chants from the crowd, you know, us folks with a permanent suntan were hearing the worst of it. Not anything that we hadn't heard before, but it was a constant barrage. I take the football on the sweep. I'm running down the sideline. I can see daylight. I can see glory. It's going to be a touchdown. However, 3 men in full regalia, robes, hoods, the whole thing, on horseback with shotguns, popped up at the end of the end zone. Needless to say, even though there was nothing to stop me from getting a touchdown, yeah, I ran out of bounds. Told coach, yeah, get one of them other white boys, get one of them receivers or something to get the touchdown. I didn't feel comfortable. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, new from the Ville, and welcome back. Now I'm going to be talking about one of the most terrifying forces in human history, a mob. You know that feeling when a group of people, fueled by a single idea, a single fear, starts to lose all sense of reason? Now I'm talking about mass stupidity, that dangerous combination of mob mentality and hypocrisy that can turn ordinary people into a destructive force. But how do you stand against it? What do you do when the people leading the charge are the most guilty of it? I'm going to take a media therapy deep dive into season 11, episode 8 of Doctor Who, called The Witchfinders. Now, it was set during the 17th century witch trials, and this episode isn't just a historical drama. It's a chilling mirror of our own society. Now, I'm going to explore how fear, paranoia, and groupthink consume an entire town, and how a hypocritical leader uses that hysteria to her own ends. I'll also take a look at the doctor's struggle to stand against the crowd, armed only with reason and compassion. You will challenge your assumptions about the power of a mob, discover what it truly takes to think for yourself, and stand for what is right, even when the whole world is screaming for something else. Let me tell you a little story. I'm one of those kind of people that believe that sports can bring our people together. It has this great way of teaching teamwork, camaraderie, good sportsmanship, and a bunch of other lessons that are harder to teach because there's just some things that you have to go through, some things you have to experience in life in order to learn it. Now, while solitary sports like tennis, skating, things like that are wonderful, there's just something different about when you're part of a team. Now, I've experienced the highs of being on a team and the lows. Part of that was when I was a player, part of it is when I was a coach, and recently just being a parent. My mentality is hard to get past. When I was a player, we were in a small town, and we knew the history, the reputation of the town before we got there. And we were told all the rules. You know, you have to go everywhere with a buddy, don't go anywhere by yourselves, do your best to stay with the team, the whole thing. And the chants from the crowd, you know, us folks with a permanent suntan were hearing the worst of it. Not anything that we hadn't heard before, but it was a constant barrage. I take the football on the sweep. I'm running down the sideline. I can see daylight. I can see glory. It's going to be a touchdown. However, 3 men in full regalia, robes, hoods, the whole thing, on horseback with shotguns, popped up at the end of the end zone. Needless to say, even though there was nothing to stop me from getting a touchdown, yeah, I ran out of bounds. Told coach, yeah, get one of them other white boys, get one of them receivers or something to get the touchdown. I didn't feel comfortable. You know, the thing is that 17, these aren't the type of battles I should be fighting. And I understand that every time you have to stand up for something, you fall for anything. I just wanted to play a game of football. But the thing is, as long ago as that was, fast forward 20 plus years, and now I'm coaching. And we go to a small school that really is 15 miles from my house. It's not far, but it's across the county line. And I'm coaching basketball, and our varsity squad takes the floor. And from the moment we stepped foot on the floor, all we heard were the hard R. Just a lot of it, the hard R. That word is not supposed to be said in civilized circles. But an entire bleachers full of children, adults alike, were just spewing hate onto the floor. Needless to say, it didn't get better when we beat the shit out of a team. Just like when I was a young man playing football, this particular day, I mean, the crowds pelted our bus with rocks and bricks and bottles and shit. You know, it's one of those things to watch it on TV, and it's a different thing altogether to experience it. I remember how it felt when I was a young man, when I was playing football, and the people from that town tried to tip our bus over. But it was a different feeling when I was a coach and I was responsible for these young men on my team. And then it was different here recently when I was a parent, rooting for my two oldest sons who are playing varsity football. And to hear the crowd, just nasty, hard R's. It's the kind of thing that as a parent you don't want your children to experience. You don't want them to see the worst things that are out there in the world. Now, I don't want to shield them. I want them to be prepared and know that there are things and people out here who do not have your best interests at heart. But at the same time, how do you get past? How do we grow? Let's get into it. Hello, Governor. This is Rikai Steve New from the Ville, and I'm here to talk to you about Doctor Who, Season 11, Episode 8, The Witchfinders. Now, if you've been rocking with me for a little bit, then you know how I do this. I give you the welcome, I'll give you an intro, I'll give you my story. We're not really going to do a recap, and the recap will come as we're talking about points in the show that follow my theme. I'll give you the quotes, I'll give you my personal thoughts, and then we're out of here. Now, for anyone who knows me knows that I love my quotes, and I have two today. The first is from Voltaire, and it fits our theme of mob mentality. And he says, "No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible." The second one fits our theme of hypocrisy, and it's from Wes Fessler. And he says, "Hypocrisy is the audacity to preach integrity from a den of corruption." I'm calling today's media therapy deep dive mass stupidity. 13 and her companions land in 1612 Lancashire near Pendle Hill. When they go to the nearby village, they find an old woman being dunked until death in a pond, accused of being a witch. The doctor tries to save her, but she fails. And she attempts to prevent any further trials of witches by pretending to be the Witchfinder General, which everyone is like, wait, but you're a woman. Now, the main landowner and the chief magistrate, basically the mayor of the little town, is a woman named Becca Savage. Just from having a name like that, you can tell she's on some BS. Now the problem is King James arrives because King James he's obsessed with witches and the occult, and he's one of the chief proponents of this witch finding. So he arrives to this village, but things are further complicated because he assumes that the doctor is Graham's assistant. He would never make a woman the Witchfinder General, so he figures it's Graham and she's his assistant. Just so happens that the part of King James is played wonderfully by Alan Cumming. Yaz goes to talk to the granddaughter of the old woman who was killed, and she was burying her grandmother when they find some tendrils made out of mud coming to attack them. Yaz figures out very quickly that whatever is causing this witch hunts is of alien origin, because all the people who had died recently are now reanimated and walking around like zombies. It's a full-on Michael Jackson video out this piece. I really want to get into talking about that. As you can see from this point, and I'm sure if you're watching the episode or if you watched it before, you can start to see the patterns. You can start to see the hypocrisy. You absolutely see the mob mentality going on. And the thing is, fear and lies are the engine of collective cruelty. We see it all the time. Mob mentality, listen, is nowhere more prevalent than high school. You know, I know it's a movie, but Mean Girls is a real thing. Bullying is a real thing. And a lot of people jump into mom mentality head and foot just so that they are not the victim, so that they're not the next target. You know, the thing is, mom mentality isn't just a crowd acting irrationally. You know, I said that a mob usually has, no mind. But usually it's very single-minded, and it usually has a leader. It's often a direct and chilling product of a leader's hypocrisy, where a community's fear is weaponized by someone who is the most guilty of all. Where have I heard that before? That sounds so familiar. Now, this episode of Witchfinders demonstrates how a person's personal shame and their secret fear can become an engine for widespread cruelty and unthinking aggression. Now let's go back to our leader, the magistrate, Becca Savage. She's the primary instigator of these witch trials, and she says she'll stop at nothing to root out all of the witches in her community. She is relentlessly condemning innocent people. But later in the episode, we find out why. And that's big, the why behind her actions. Turns out she had a self-serving motive. She was infected by an alien. There was a huge tree in the middle of this Pendle Hill. And she said that from her house, the tree was blocking her view. So she went out there and cut the tree down. Now, she didn't know that the tree actually housed an alien technology that was keeping some aliens in this hill. Basically, it was like a prison. And these awful aliens were imprisoned by this tree. Well, when she cut the tree down, she was infected. And at this point, all hell's breaking loose. Damn near literally. So this alien race is called the Morax, and it was a very sophisticated, I don't want to say spell, but technology that was housed in this tree, a simple, normal looking tree, to keep this alien race of peoples at bay. And of course, the question you might have is, why on Earth? Because in the grand scheme of things, Earth is a small mud ball. Earth is a small mud ball with very unsophisticated, uncivilized creatures called humans on it. What better place to hold an intergalactic prison? Now, Becca is using the witch hunts to conduct her own experiments and find a cure. She weaponizes the town's hysteria as a shield for herself. She wants to shield her own shame, her own fear. But this proves a direct link between her hypocrisy and the crowd's cruelty. And think about King James. This is his jam. He loves this. The townspeople are already driven by fear and paranoia. Then the king of the entire country shows up, and that fuels your paranoia to a great height. Especially when a strong leader comes around, people are quick to condemn and participate in brutal acts because they passively accept the word of the leaders. Don't ask any questions, they just do. King James further fuels this dangerous groupthink and the hysteria behind the witch hunts. And then the doctor, she ends up having a moment of reckoning, but it doesn't go as it's supposed to. The doctor attempts to use logic to expose Becca Savage. She tells everyone that Becca's been lying, that she's an alien, that she's infected, that she is one of them. But of course you can't tell the people about aliens and what's going on. They don't believe that. It's hogwash, it's rubbish. So Becca flips it on her, uses the crowd's fear and their paranoia, and accuses the doctor of witchcraft. I mean, if you think about the doctor's sonic screwdriver, looks like a magic wand, doesn't it? The crowd and King James immediately accept this. It's gotta be right. There's too much about the doctor that's unexplained. This just proves that when mob mentality is in full swing, reason, logic is powerless against a leader's accusations, no matter how hypocritical or baseless. Like, your evidence against them has to be monumental and these days overly visual, like it needs to be the smoking gun of all smoking guns. Of course, the doctor ends up saving the day, and they're able to banish the Morax back into the tree at Pendle Hill, and then remove everyone's memories of Pendle Hill, remove it from history, remove it from the books, so no one can stumble upon it and let the Morax out. But what this show does, in a very herky-jerky kind of way, is show that a mob's cruelty is often a dark reflection of the hypocritical fears of its leaders. So what do? How do you fight back? It would be nice. This story happened in 1612. But here we are over 400 years later, and we still go through the same thing. Mob mentality hasn't changed. Hypocrisy damn sure hasn't changed. How do you fight back? This is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville. Make sure that you like this video, share it as much as possible, and make sure you leave me some comments. What do you think about mob mentality and hypocrisy? Have you ever dealt with it yourself? Have you ever seen episodes of it play out? Have you ever been a victim in mob mentality and just you got caught up in something you don't even understand, you don't even know why you were doing the things you were doing? I'm not going to ask you to expose yourself as a hypocrite, because most of them never will say that they were a hypocrite. But if for some reason you haven't subscribed, it's not too late. Hit the button, subscribe, watch all the videos. Maybe you'll find something that actually resonates with you. Remember, at the end of the day, it's all about this, but it's even better when you use this.